There are plenty of different 5.56 guns in Escape from Tarkov, but there are none as iconic as the Colt M4A1. This gun is absolutely famous in gaming history, and in Tarkov is an absolute weapon. Today we're going to be talking about the best in slot M4 as well as some other builds and how they stack up against the HK and others. We're also going to be talking about ammo and how good some of the different ammos are after some of the recent changes against some of the best armor the game has to offer. So we definitely had to start by talking about ammo, and this is really important. It doesn't really matter how much you spend on a gun. If you choose the wrong ammo, you're in for a bad time. Now, starting off, the minimum that I would recommend can be purchased from level 1 Peacekeeper, and this is M855. Interesting enough, that M855 actually got nerfed. It got moved from 30 pen down to 28. There is consistency in the level 3 and under armors, but if we work our way up towards 4, it starts to drop the ball. Now, if you are hitting a lot of shots in full order succession, you may be able to punch through eventually, but what you'll notice is 5 and 6, it is terrible. So, for this, we would actually recommend, these days, M856A1 as a minimum. You can actually purchase M856A1 from level 2 Peacekeeper, and I know that's a bit of a big jump up, but it is definitely worth the money. It goes from $2 a bullet M855 to $4 a bullet 56A1. As well as the fact that you can craft it at level 2 workbench, which is a pretty good deal. As we work our way up to the higher tier armors, we will see a lot more consistency. However, level 5 and 6 is where M856A1 starts to drop the ball. This is really important because a lot of the higher tier kits in the game will actually eat 56A1 for breakfast. This is where M855A1 comes in. Now, M855A1 is actually been recently buffed. This round is nuts. It has 45 pen and 46 damage. This round is absolutely bonkers and will go through most armors with ease. I did want to point out, however, M855A1 does come with a hefty price tag. There are currently no trades or crafts for this ammo, but you can purchase it from Skier, level max, for a really good price, 90 per reset, however. Or you can purchase it from Peacekeeper for $7 a bullet at max loyalty. Now, 55A1 is going to give you what you pay for, however. Way more consistency in level 4, and we're also going to be able to punch through level 5 armor a lot quicker than 56A1. But what's really interesting is that 55A1 will let you down versus level 6 armor if you're not hitting consistent shots. And this is where M995 comes in. What the M95 does is it closes the gap between the 45 and 53 pen. Now, 45 to 53 pen doesn't sound like a lot, when in terms of level 5 and 6 armor, this does actually make a big difference. Now, M995 will chew through pretty much any geared boy in the game with ease. The thing is with M95, however, is that you cannot purchase it from traders. You can only purchase it on the flea market for a pretty hefty price tag. However, I did want to point out that sometimes M995 is actually cheaper on the flea market than 55A1, due to the fact that 55A1 has slightly more flesh, so it's a little bit more favored within the community. Another round that got added recently, and this is SSA-AP. Now, we touched on this in another video where we looked at it against all things, including helmets, but I did want to point out that SSA-AP has 56 pen, which gives you way more consistency up against level 6 armors. However, that lack of flesh will let you down. Now, what I wanted to point out, the 36 flesh is just simply not enough. And with the round being so expensive, the only real reason to run this ammo is if you are doing like a DMR 101 and you're trying to snipe, because this round actually has a higher muzzle velocity. Now, next up, you may be asking, why would you run an M4 over a HK 416? And yeah, they're both really good guns. Let's just quickly look at the two meta builds side by side. Now, first up, we're going to be noticing that the M4 actually has better ergo. of 55 compared to the HK's 52. On top of this, we are going to be looking at the vertical recoil versus the horizontal recoil. The M4 has 32 compared to the 44 of the HK, as well as the fact that the M4 has 89 horizontal compared to the HK's 116. The biggest trade-off, however, is the fact that the HK does have better muzzle velocity at 965 with the longer barrel. On top of this, it also has 50 rounds per minute faster fire rate and is why it's favored within the community because generally the faster firing gun wins. If we look at the two side by side, however, when firing them both, it becomes very apparent why that horizontal recoil makes the HK inferior. You know, it's really nice to fire the gun from the hip and kill people quickly, but I did want to point out that horizontal recoil can be very wild, and this is indeed one of the best builds possible for the HK. Now obviously I could get the recoil a little bit lower, but the ergonomics would be incredibly bad. So now let's quickly look at some of those budget builds so you guys can run the M4 for cheap. We are going to be changing the stock over to the Chris Defiance DS150. Now this thing is absolutely badass because it has really good recoil reduction. Don't really worry so much about changing the pistol grip, but you can. Some of the tan parts are actually cheaper, but you can use the black ones exactly the same. Now changing the low profile gas block, we are going to be using the Remington RSAS handguard. Now this handguard is a good aesthetic as well as the fact that it's incredibly cheap and has good stats. You can however switch this out for another option, which is the AR-15 Daniel Defense Risk 2. There are two types, and the long type actually has better recoil reduction and better ergo, as well as the fact that it comes pre-attached with a rail both for lasers and also for grips. You can attach pretty much any grip that you would want on here. Some of the really good value grips at the moment would be like the Magpul RVG. But if you want the best in slot, we are going to be going with the CQR Hera Arms Tactical Grip, as it has a really good balance between both ergo, price, and recoil. This thing actually brings a lot of that recoil down, and I would actually recommend this grip pretty much every time. I know it doesn't look super great, but it is really good. Changing up towards the suppressors, there are heaps of choices at the moment. However, there's one choice that is really good value, and that is the KAC QDC suppressor / compensator combo. You can use either or, whether you're using the black version or the FDE version, whichever one's cheaper on the flea market. As for scopes, it doesn't super matter, but you can tie whatever you want to this. This entire build is actually really usable, with 45 ergo and about 56 vertical and 154 horizontal. It sounds like a lot on paper, but will actually get the job done quite easily. This paired with 5681 is an absolute Chad slayer and should do the job quite well. This whole build is going to cost you 112,000 rubles, not including the gun, so around about 170,000 rubles including the gun, which for an M4 is actually really good with these sort of stats. Budget this and budget that, you guys are here for the meta build, so let's get into it. We are going to be changing the buffer stock to the advanced buffer tube, and then putting the Magpul Mo stock on, with the butt pad itself. After we're done here, we can actually change the charging handle. I'm going to be using any of the above, but I like the Avalanche as it's a really good value and it's also really good on ergo. You can also go ahead and change the upper receiver to the MER 1S as it has the best stats across the board. Now the gun is already starting to look a lot better, but what we need to do is we need to change this pistol grip to get a bit more ergo. We are going to be using the Graal S as this thing is amazing in terms of ergonomics. As soon as we're done with the Graal S, we are going to be changing the mag out and then putting on the default barrel. Now you can use the 370mm, but to get the lowest recoil possible, we'll be using the 20-inch. Once the 20-inch is on there, we're going to be changing up the handguard. Now there are heaps of different handguards to choose from, but the best one is still in the game is the AR-15 SAI QD 14.5-inch handguard. Now, once again, we're going to put on the JP Enterprise Gas System 5B gas block, as it reduces the recoil by 1%. After we're done here, we're going to slap on the rail to attach a grip. Now, for the grips, you can actually put on anything you want, but we're going to be going with the forward shift grip as it has really good ergo and makes up for the long barrel and the ergo that it reduces. Now that we're here, we can throw on some iron sights to boost the ergonomics. I like the Defiant Chris iron sights, as they're nice and low profile and they also look really nice with the gun. Now there are plenty different good compensators and suppressors to choose from, but we're going to be using the Silencerco ASR 51T556, and then we're going to be putting the Seika ASR on the top of that. And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is a disgustingly good build with 53 ergonomics and 32 vertical recoil. It also has a whopping 89 horizontal recoil, which is literally nothing. This gun is a disgusting laser beam of death. I did want to point out that you can reduce the recoil a little bit more from here if you have to, but it is a really big waste of time. A good way to actually have the same build but save a lot of money is to keep the default barrel and go ahead and put on the same attachments. If you do this, you can actually get about 68 ergo with 37 vertical recoil and also 101 horizontal, which is literally just as good, except the ergo is nicer and it costs you less. Now, the biggest downside of this build, it is very, very, very expensive. It's going to cost you about 360,000 rubles, including the gun. So that is 300,000 rubles in attachments alone. But it's definitely worth it because this gun is a freaking laser beam. Like, I've literally killed so many people with this gun. It is a super easy to use gun. I could walk around and just armchair this thing. It's just disgustingly strong. But hey guys, that's it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown. Guys, I apologize about the lack of uploads recently. I am now back on my own making videos by myself. So we're just getting back into the swing of things here. I've got a lot of great projects coming up. I am working on some more armor testing and also some leg meta videos. If you guys enjoy those sort of breakdowns or like these build guides, consider subscribing to the channel. It does mean a lot. If you guys have any questions about guns or just want to come and talk shit with me, you're more than welcome to. I do stream live on Twitch. The link for that will be featured down below. You're more than welcome to come out and hang out any single time. I appreciate you guys watching to the very end, you absolute legends. And as always, we'll see you on the next one.